Hello and welcome to Channel 2S. I'm your host, Second Soundwave, and today we're looking at the HGUC Qubeley Revive version from Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. This kit came out back in late December, and I'm finally gotten around to reviewing it and building it up. As you can see, the box is a good bit bigger than the previous Revive kits. It's mostly due to the massive wings on the side here, as well as the fact that it's pretty darn big. Not very big, mind you, but definitely a bit bigger than your standard-sized Mobile Suit. I love the box art on this, by the way. It's very detailed, and I love this style of box art. I wish Bandai used it on all their kits instead of just a handful of the HGUC ones and the 00 ones. I'm not the biggest fan of the Qubeley itself, but I have to say that art just makes it look so epic. Got some more of that epic art here on the side, and as you can see, this is the 195th kit in the high-grade Universal Century line, which means the 200 is getting closer and closer. Nothing really special here on the bottom. We just got a couple basic shots of the Qubeley, and a couple more sort of action-y, gimmicky shots showing the stuff it does. Usual things you see on a high-grade box. Up here on the top, we got it fighting the Hyakushiki over here in like a kind of photoshopped battle thing. It's kind of cool. We got some story information, some sort of technical stats, and the legal information, and it's an 1800 yen kit, which is actually pretty cheap considering the size of the box. And in similar fashion to the RX-78-2, there's actually a black and white advertisement on the bottom of the box here that shows off some of the other high-grade kits. Up here in the top left corner we have like some of the other Zeta high grades. Then down here we have some other Revive kits that come out like Freedom, Gundam, Gun Cannon. Then up here we got some of the IBO kits, Hyakuri, Hyakaren, Gray's Custom, Barbatos. Then down here we have some of the tail end of build fighters. We got Lightning Zeta, the Super Fumina, and the Tri-Burning, which came out a bit earlier, but I guess they just wanted to round out the team. We got some Mobile Worker and the Ortegas Zaku and the Prototype Go from Origin. So yeah, just kind of a reminder that we've gotten some really awesome kits in recent years, and I hope Bandai keeps this up because I am loving the high-grade line right now. So here we have the finished Qubeley here, and if I had to describe it in one word, it would probably be fiddly. But not in a really bad way, mind you. All the joints are nice and tight, and everything holds together fine. It's just that there's so many joints that it feels like whenever you're posing it around, you always end up knocking something out of position and it ends up looking kind of wonky. Like maybe, you know, the torso will end up tipped slightly, and especially with these wings, because there's 3 or 4 or 5, or I think around 6 or 7 almost. And it's very easy when you're moving the shoulder around to knock one of these loose, and then you have to put them back in. And there's like so many joints in the shoulder area especially that gets a little fiddly, but with a little patience you can get it to look pretty good and just kind of symmetricalize everything here. And in the end you could actually make it look pretty alright. Detail is a bit of a mixed bag because of course it's a very smooth mobile suit, so there's not a lot of surface detail. Most of the detail comes from these pink stripes, which are all plastic, by the way. All the ones except these little stickers up here are plastic. They're just like pink pieces underneath the white. I think they look great. I love the way it comes out. You do still have a few panel lines like these ones kind of coming down here. I mean, maybe you could paint the inside of that gray or something. You should technically paint the underside of the foot here gray, although they did give you plastic for the front, which is very nice. And you got these sort of purple thruster things here. You got these sections back here that move for absolutely no reason. I've tested the ankle armor several times and it never gets in the way, so I don't know why that moves, but whatever. Got more pink back here. We got some little sculpting in here that says 2 and then LMES below it. I have no idea what that means. Inside the elbow we got like a purple section with some nice lines sculpted in. Got the blue sections up here and the pink sections here, and then if you flip it around they're kind of mirrored, so we got the blue on this side and the pink on that side. The chest's got some nice detailing. The head's got a kind of very odd shape to it. It's got some nice vibrant green eyes, and you do get a pink sticker for if you want to have pink eyes instead. I just decided to go with the green because I thought it looked nicer. You can take the front chest part here and lift it up. You can see the cockpit right there. The cockpit itself doesn't open, obviously, just because it's a high grade. But you can move this around, and that's kind of cool. I mean, it's just kind of stuck in there, since it's sort of like the quote-unquote hinge mechanism that the Schwarbel Grays used on its head. So it's not so much a hinge, it is just a friction connection, but it does the job, and since it's just a kind of afterthought, it really doesn't detract from the kit at all. The torso's got a little bit of lining on it, looks nice. Waist armor looks nice. There's a whole bunch, actually 10 funnels, sort of hidden underneath the back skirt, and that looks nice. The stand hole does stand out a bit just because the whole waist is white, and then you just have that random one gray hole there. But for the most part, it doesn't look bad. I especially like the little details like these blue sections here on the side of the legs. I really like those for some reason. I have no idea why. Speaking of details, there's also these little sections of pink here on the arms that if you kind of stick your finger up in there, you can actually pull them out slightly. And I don't really know what that's for, but it does look cool. So I guess that's a plus. You also got some tiny little sculpted triangle sections on the arm there, as well as some, almost looks like stitching around the edge here. And this is one problem I've had with this figure, is that the arms tend to like to sort of work their way out of the joint. It's not a major issue. I mean, it's easy enough to fix. You just kind of push the arm back in. But when you do that, it kind of fluffs up all the joints again, and you have to get everything back to the way you had it. So you have to like rotate this down, and then get these back to where they were. And because it swivels both above and below the elbow, you kind of have to get the arm back to where it was. But once you get all that sorted out, it's a pretty alright kit. So just give me a minute and I'll kind of get this sorted out, and then we'll continue onwards. So you can see I kind of put the Qubeley in sort of a graceful, elegant pose. This is actually kind of how I like to pose mine, with the back sections of the wings kind of tilted back. I think it gives it a little more kind of width to it and a little more power. Also, it doesn't look quite as weird as the two wings here because it kind of shrinks down the size of the shoulder pads and just makes it look more streamlined. It actually looks pretty good from the back too. Kind of helps them kind of blend in with this and form like a three-shape pattern. I just really like how the wings look this way. It's not, I don't think it's canonical, but it just looks really nice. Poseability is good. All these things have like several joints in there. I'm just going to kind of show you. So there's like a joint here, a joint here, a joint here, a joint there. You can pretty much do whatever you want with those. It's just really well designed in there, and there's, as you can see, there's just a ton of detail in here too, with like these pipes and stuff. The shoulders are on ball joints, so they got plenty of movement. It has that same swing up polycap that the Revive Gundam uses, except it can't really swing up very far at all, so it's kind of useless. If you can do it without the arm popping off, you can swing it up, which looks nice. You can swing it down. It swivels above the elbow. It swivels below the elbow. Elbow itself has a pretty lousy bend if you look at it normally, but it does that same thing the Master Raid Jesta does, where you can pull down the joint, and then we swing it around again. It has a nice 90-degree bend to it. If you tip it this way, you can actually get even more. So I'd say the elbow articulation, considering the design of the mobile suit, they did a pretty commendable job with it. And then the wrist. The wrist is interesting. It's got a lot of wrist movement for a modern high grade, or really any high grade, because you got a ball joint, so it swivels and moves around. And then you have a hinge on the wrist, sort of like the Build Burning Gundam had, so you can swing it back and you can swing it forth. And then you have ball jointed thumbs and fingers like a 2.0 Master Grade hand. And just like the 2.0 Master Grade hand, you can make little cuts between the fingers, and because they each have an individual ball joint, you can then give it individual finger articulation. Yeah, individual articulation, finger articulation on a high grade. I do believe that is a first for this kit. If we move up a little bit and go to the neck and just kind of move all this stuff out of the way, you can see that there's not a lot of movement to be had here, but you can take this kind of telescoping section and it like pops up a bit, so you can have it looking upwards or in like a flight pose. And once you do that, it actually frees up the neck quite a bit, so you can have it looking off to the side. And it kind of reminds me of a goose slightly for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Probably just kind of the beak-like shape of it. This back section moves in and out. You can swing the waist around pretty much all the way around. I'm not going to bother doing that right now, but it tips, so you can have it do side-to-side stuff. It's got a very nice backwards tip to it. There's actually like a hinge joint inside here that gets that little extra bit of reach. So when you combine that with the neck, and you just tip this down and try to kind of get everything out of the way, everything kind of bumps together back here if you try to do it, but you can actually get a pretty nice flight pose out of this guy. Which is good, because while I haven't seen far enough into Zeta Gundam for this thing to show up, from what I understand, it does fly around in space a lot, so it's good that you can get a good flight pose out of it. Hips are great. They don't go a full, like, sideways split, but they go pretty far. Because of the way the armor is designed, you can actually get the legs back really far, and you can get them forward quite far, so it gets like a nice front-to-back split, which is pretty awesome. That's not something you see a lot with a high grade. Thigh swivel is quite limited. You only get, like, this much movement, and that's technically enough, but it feels so weird to not have a full thigh swivel like most high grades do nowadays. Knees are double jointed. If you just bend it this way, it gets to about there. If you do a little fiddling, you can get it quite a bit farther, and it actually is more than enough knee movement. And the kneecap does look a bit weird when you have the leg bent back, but you can just kind of take it and tip it down. And it makes it look natural again and kind of emulates the shifting armor you might see on a master grade, so that's cool. Again, this moves to absolutely no extent whatsoever. Ankles can tip around, like you can get a little bit of ankle tilt out of them. They're not going to go forward and back much, they're not going to swivel much, but you do get an ability to tip the toe down again for kind of flight style poses. So I guess that's a plus. So overall, the articulation on this kit, it's alright. I mean, it's not going to be breaking any world records, and considering the design of the kit, I think they did okay. I mean, things could probably on a normal Gundam move more, but considering the shape of the armor and the way that it's kind of, the design of the kit kind of works against including any kind of articulation with it, I'd say that pretty much just what they did already is kind of impressive, and definitely an example of how high-tech the Revive line is. So only thing really I think there is left to show off are the accessories and then a couple other poses this thing can pull off. So for starters, we have the basic weapon that literally every mobile suit ever comes with, the beam saber. Now in the Qubeley, the beam sabers are hidden here in the wrists. I took the one out on this side, so you might not have noticed it when I was showing the hand articulation, but I still got one in here. And you could pop it out right now, or you could actually take the blade and stick it in while it's in his wrist and give him like kind of hidden blade Assassin's Creed kind of thing going on there. Or you could just tip it out and take it off. It's just tabbed in by a little thing on the side there. And then you get a pair of holding hands with the beam saber, so you can just pop it in there. It's a very solid connection. It's not coming out. It's nice and solid, nice and secure. It has very big hands too, much bigger than a normal high grade would. So you can get it in some nice beam saber poses. And another thing this kit can do surprisingly well are kneeling poses. As you can see, it actually has plenty of articulation to go down on one knee, which is pretty awesome for a kit this bulky. Here you can see beam saber in hand, beam saber in wrist. They look pretty cool. Only other real weapons it has are the funnels back here. You can kind of pull them off, and they're very easy to lose, but they are quite detailed. They have pretty much all the details they need. And there is a P-Bondi set that gives you like some kind of a stand that you can put these on so they look like they're flying around. And I guess if that's your kind of thing, you can pick it up. I think I might pick it up actually. The more I play around with this kit, the more I kind of think that I need to get one of those, because it'd be cool to have these funnels out and flying around, and otherwise they're just going to get lost, and who wants lost funnels, you know? And they're such an iconic part of the Qubeley's arsenal that I think it's worth getting the stand just so you can display it in its sort of iconic attack poses and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun with this kit. Lower body's really fun to pose. There's a lot of movement. Upper body's a bit of a pain because it's hard to get the elbow joints oriented right because there's swivels above and below it. And half the time I just have no idea what to do with the wings. There's just so many different places you can put them that it's almost overwhelming, and I think there's a bit too much articulation there. But considering how much they get in the way if they didn't have all those joints, I can kind of see why they did that. But yeah, only thing left at this point is to show off that kind of flight capsule mode or whatever it is. So I'm just gonna pop this blade out of here, gonna pop this off of here, let's grab the normal hand, pop it in here. It's pretty easy to change the hands in this kit, I have to say. Haven't really had any issues with that. Let's see, so we want to keep the arms straight, pretty much straighten everything out basically, which is easier said than done because again, so many joints. Too many joints. But if you just get this, and again, there goes the shoulder, off the polycap once again. Just jam this back up in there, stick it in, get the elbow aligned right. This is basically what goes on whenever you're trying to pose this kit. It's quite fiddly. But then you can just take these and with a little bit of fiddling you can get them in. You can actually get them to pretty much completely seal around the arms. And then from there it's just a matter of tipping the feet down, tipping the things there in, and then tipping the torso back, tipping the head back. Pretty much just basically as far as it goes. Apologies if that was off camera, I believe it was. But yeah, that's basically the, just I guess tip this down a bit more. This is pretty much the Qubeley as it flies around in space. So it's got the shoulder pads tucked in around it, the feet are tucked in, the knees are tucked in. It's not really a transformation, it's just kind of a thing you can pull off of the kit because of the way it's designed. And you know what? I think it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely a fan of the Qubeley. I wouldn't necessarily like display it this way, especially since there's no way to like attach it to a stand without having the arm like kind of wrap up through there, and that's kind of awkward to do, but I think it's pretty good. I think they did this is something that, as far as I know, the old Qubeley kit could not do, so I guess that's a plus. So yeah, I guess all that's really left is final thoughts on this kit, and I think it's alright. Like, I had kind of high hopes for it. I was thinking it would be really cool. I was thinking it would be like the Origin Zaku or the Revive High Grade RX-78, where it would just be a really cool, really epic, really fun kit. And it's okay, I guess. I mean, I was a little disappointed. I think it's definitely fiddlier than I was hoping it is. Hoping it would be. It's kind of hard to pose, because again, there's so much stuff that can move. And just generally, if you like having a lot of options with like poseability and stuff, I guess it's good, but at the same time you don't have a lot of display options since there's only a couple weapons, and one of them, the funnels, you really can't use with it without getting a premium Bandai set, which is kind of a shame. But as far as just a representation of the Qubeley Gundam, I think it's excellent. Definitely something that belongs on your Zeta Gundam shelf, and that's really all it has to do. I mean, it is a model kit after all. It's just meant to be a nice replica of the real life or fictional character or vehicle that it represents, and I think it does that job well. So yeah, gets a thumbs up. Not 2 thumbs up, but definitely 1. I'd give it like a good 7 out of 10 at least. I think it's a nice kit, worth picking up. If you really don't like the Qubeley design, I don't think you're missing anything by passing on it, but overall I think it's a good kit. So yeah, I'm Second Soundwave, and I will be seeing you next time when we're going to be reviewing something from Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans.